Well, hello, Red 2 Haunted Outdoors community. Tonight, we're gonna share with you 9 haunted Canadian places you definitely shouldn't visit alone. Don't say we didn't warn you. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, you can't deny the creepiness of some of the stories about Canada's most haunted places. When one person reports a ghost, sure, maybe it's all in their head. But when the same stories and sightings keep happening again and again, sometimes over decades, it's harder to chalk it all up to imagination. These 9 places have some of the country's most frequent reports of hauntings, paranormal activity. You can visit them all. Just don't go alone. Number 9. Ottawa Jail Hostel, Ontario. This old building made of stone served for over a century as Ottawa's jail, closing in 1972. Just 1 year later, it opened as a hostel for travelers, short on cash, visiting the historic city. No time at all to clear out any lingering ghosts. The jail saw 3 souls executions, each by hanging. This includes the legendary hanging of Patrick J. Whelan. He swung from the noose for the assassination of Canada's father of Confederation, Thomas D'Arcy McGee. As many employees and those daring enough to stay and work at the hostel will warn you, Whelan's ghost still haunts the old jail, even seen standing at the foot of guest beds. You can still stay in the jail if you dare, even an original 3x9 foot, one-person cell, with a few modern creatures and comforts added, of course. Hey, maybe you'll see Doug and I there. If enough of you want us there, we'll consider it. Comment in this video. Number 8. Frank Slide, Alberta. Having been personally born just a half an hour away in Sparwood, Ontario, and lived there, I can personally attest to seeing things out of the corner of my eye and feeling very much like I was being watched. Every time I drove past, seeing the old train tracks still there, I shudder at the thought. From that fateful night in 1903, in the wee hours of the morning, 82 million tons of rock broke free from a mountainside above Frank, Alberta, burying part of the town, its rail line, and a local coal mine. Between 70 and 90 residents were killed, most of whom were buried in the rubble to this day. Ever since then, residents have reported seeing spooky mists and lights on the mountain where the landslide happened. The most memorable story I remember as a child was meeting an old woman in her 90s, as I recall. She was just a baby as the rocks fell. Was in the attic while her 2 siblings and parents below. She was the only survivor. She volunteered at the museum till her death. Number 7, Peggy's Cove, Nova Scotia. Being a major tourist hotspot, it's no secret that it's a treacherous location. The lighthouse atop smooth, weather-worn rocks is picture perfect. But the whole place can be dangerous and downright fatal, especially when rough weather hits and the rocks get slippery. There's a local legend that tells of a story of one resident, Margaret, nicknamed Peggy, who settled here after surviving a shipwreck nearby. Her children didn't make it, and she would regularly walk the rocks at night, grieving their tragic loss. On one particular night, her and her husband went out to dance on the rocks. He wanted to lift her spirits. But that fateful night, the rocks were wet, and he slipped and fell to his death. Man, this poor woman cannot catch a break. And Margaret later took her own life. Those who visit Peggy's Cove have reported seeing the ghost of a woman in a blue dress, standing at the edge of the rocks, looking as if she's about to jump. Number 6. Blue Ghost Tunnel, Ontario. There is an abandoned railway tunnel stretching 655 feet near the city of St. Catharines, Ontario. The tunnel was only used for 39 years. However, it was the scene of many accidents, most notably a teenager killed by a huge rock and a train collision just outside of the tunnel. As well, 107 souls were killed during the tunnel's construction alone. Reports come in to this day of paranormal activity inside the tunnel, including weird lights, sensations of being watched, touched, or pushed, as well as the sounds of footsteps, children crying, voices and whistling. Whoa, creepy. Number 5. Craig Darrach Castle, British Columbia. Built in 1890 in beautiful Victoria, BC, there sits a lavish castle, built as a private home for a local coal baron who died before he could see construction completed. It has had many owners since then, and is now a tourist attraction for tours, but rumor has it, some of its previous residents still linger behind the old castle home. There have been reports of a ghostly woman in white who stands alone in the castle ballroom, the sounds of children crying, and even a piano that plays itself. Yikes, BC can be spooky. Number 4. St. Louis Ghost Train, Saskatchewan. On an old abandoned railway in St. Louis, Saskatchewan, reports are plenty of a train light that travels up and down the line, changing in color and intensity as it moves. Some say it's a ghost train. Others say it's the light from the lantern of a ghostly brakeman who was beheaded by a train in the area. Either way, you won't catch me on that stretch of track at night. Number 3. Banff Springs Hotel, Alberta. 19th century, Fairmont, Banff Springs. This majestic building was one of the original railway hotels, built by CP Railway to attract travelers westward. While the hotel denies it's haunted, there's a long-standing story about a bride who died while falling down one of the hotel's grand stone staircases in 1932. To this day, there are reports that her ghost, still in her wedding dress, has been dancing alone in the Cascade Ballroom. Number 2. Gastown, British Columbia. In the original heart of the city of Vancouver, there is a legend and quite a few ghost stories. Rumors are abundant here about ghosts at the old Hotel Europe and a ghost train conductor who now lives at the old spaghetti factory on Water Street. But perhaps the most haunted building in the area is the stately waterfront station, originally built as the city's train station in 1914. Many late-night security guards and cleaning staff have reported sightings of ghosts and the sounds of Depression-era music sounding through the hallways. Number 1. Royal York Hotel, Ontario. One of CP Railway's old stock hotels once stood tall on Toronto's skyline, till all the condo towers moved in. Today, it's still one of Toronto's most luxurious and grandest hotels. Hey, even Queen Elizabeth II has stayed there. But like many of these old buildings, it's full of ghost stories. There are tales of the sounds of children running up and down the halls, only to turn silent upon further investigation. Some guests on upper floors and rooms under the once lively Crystal Ballroom, which was permanently closed because of fire-code infractions, report hearing voices and music coming from the vacant space. Was it fire-code infractions? Or was it something more sinister? Well, there you have it. Subscribe and comment for more spooky, weird, and unexplained from Red Tooth Haunted Outdoors.